That in mind, we welcome back to SAFM Sports Special Dr. Ross Tucker, very well known man in sports circles. He's been making a lot of noise about the Ludwick Mamabolo debacle, and he joins us now to discuss them. Good afternoon and welcome, Doctor.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me.
So, like you've described it, it's a sad and painful thing to happen, but unfortunately, it's a necessary reminder to make us all realize how widespread this sort of thing is. Yes,
and I mean, when you say this sort of thing, it's one of two things. It's either deliberate doping to cheat, in which case it's a reminder that that's what sport is like these days, and unfortunately we have to be cynical. Or on the other hand, it's inadvertent, accidental doping, and he's unlucky, but that's another reminder about how careful elite athletes need to be when they take supplements. So either way, we're reminded of something, and both of them are bad. So it's unfortunately, Mamabolo is the example that's being set for everyone.
Well, the sad thing is, though, that I tend to believe him. I tend to believe him. Maybe it's just naivety on my part, but a man that takes off 3 months before the Comrades Marathon and puts all that effort in, I don't see him using a banned substance. Notwithstanding, but what will he have to go through now to prove that he didn't take it intentionally? Because isn't it just word of, not word of mouth, but his word against that of a South African Institute for Drug-Free Sports board's word?
No, it's you see, it can't ever be one person's word against another, because then the whole fabric of anti-doping would unravel very quickly, because you can imagine every single positive test would become a I didn't do it and someone has to prove that you did. So the way that anti-doping was designed specifically to prevent that was that the burden of proof falls on the athletes to prove innocence. So when a sample comes back positive, like has happened now, the athlete has to prove that it wasn't doping. So that's different from what most people will understand, because normally you're innocent until proven guilty. As soon as that sample came back and there was a banned substance in Mamabolo's sample, the onus was now on him to say, where did this drug come from? And unfortunately, even if he stands up and says it came from a supplement, he's still liable for that substance. And so he may not necessarily, as I mentioned, be guilty of deliberately doping in order to cheat and gain an advantage, but he's still guilty of doping. So he probably then still faces a fine, even if it was accidental doping. And the problem for him now is he's going to have to, A, manage to identify which supplement it was and then somehow prove to a panel that it was that. And then B, he has to show that he did everything possible to minimize or reduce that risk of testing positive because of a contaminated supplement, which is incidentally what happened to two rugby players, Bjorn Basona and Chiliboy Ralepele. They failed the test for the same substance as him, but they were able to show that it wasn't their fault, that they'd done everything possible, and for that reason they got cleared. He would have to do exactly the same thing.
So bottom line, like with most legal cases or any legal case, ignorance of the law is just not an option.
It's not, no, and that's especially the case. So an athlete will then go along, because this is most likely to be his defense, he's already alluded to it, is that he's taking supplements, and he will probably argue, I mean, we don't know this for sure, I'm speculating, but he'll probably argue that he took a supplement and it happened to contain a banned substance. That could either be because it was listed on the bottle and he didn't know it was banned, in which case that's ignorance of the law, too bad, you're still guilty. Or he took a substance that was supposed to be clean, but it got contaminated in the manufacture process. And then he's unlucky, but he's still guilty. And that's the reality, is that you're strictly liable. Therefore, anything in your system that is illegal, you pay the price for.
I don't know. It seems like such a difficult one to cut, Dr. Tucker, because you had Bjorn Basona and Chiliboy Ralepele. They proved beyond a reasonable doubt that, okay, fine, we took this, but unknowingly it wasn't our fault. And how is it going to be that much more difficult for Ludwick?
Well, I think the difference there was that because they were part of a team, and SA Rugby, to their credit, have got a very good anti-doping policy. So all those players get told don't take supplements because of the risk. And what happened in their case was that there was a specific supplement which had, for all intents and purposes, been guaranteed, quote unquote, to be clean. And then it turned out that it wasn't. So in that instance, they were actually let down by the company that made the supplement and SA Rugby to a certain extent, and so therefore they were not guilty. Whereas for Mamabolo, if he's taking that as an individual and he hasn't sought those guarantees, he hasn't gone to the supplement company, whoever they may be, and said, can you assure me 100% confidently that this is not going to contain a banned substance, then he is still liable. So that's the difference, is whether he's got someone, call it higher up the chain of command, who will get his back for him. If he doesn't, then even if he's innocent, and like you, I mean, I'm skeptical of these claims, but in this particular instance, only because there's precedent for it, I tend to think that he might be telling the truth, but unfortunately, he's still guilty, even if he is being honest about where the substance came from.
Yo, rough. So very, very rough. If you've just joined us, Dr. Ross Tucker, he's chatting to us about the Ludwick Mamabolo debacle. He won the 2012 Comrades Marathon, became the first South African to do so since 2005. And then he tested positive for the banned stimulant methylhexanamine. Now, I don't know if you know offhand, Doctor, but what exactly does methylhexanamine do? Does it boost your performance significantly? What exactly does it do to the body?
Yeah, so it's a stimulant which is in the same category. The most powerful stimulant that we know of is called amphetamines, which is something many listeners may be more familiar with. That's also the same ingredient found in ecstasy, the nightclub party drug. And the way that the stimulants work is they act in the central nervous system, your brain, and they decrease fatigue, thereby giving you energy. So the reason it's banned is because theoretically that's what it would do. It would take away the sensations of fatigue, and you would be able to exercise harder, faster, longer, whichever the case may be. There's no direct evidence that this particular stimulant, methylhexanamine, is effective for sports performance, but because it's related to amphetamines, it's on the list and therefore banned. Caffeine, incidentally, is another stimulant which is a lot milder.
But not banned.
Yeah, it was banned, and that was until, I stand corrected on the year, but probably about 10 years ago they took it off the banned list because there wasn't enough evidence that it was in fact performance enhancing or harmful. So that came up because in 2010 this substance, methylhexanamine, there must have been at least 40 to 50 positive cases in 2010. And it's one of those controversial ones because it does seem to pop up a lot as a contaminant. And so there was talk about removing it, but it hasn't happened.
Okay, bottom line for a prospective sports person that's thinking about either A, taking supplements, or B, just wanting to remain out of this type of thing and just wanting to go out, do their thing, and reap the rewards when they're due. What is the best way to go about preventing this type of thing happening?
Yeah, so again, let's assume that what's happened here is that he has quite innocently taken a supplement that's been given to him, or he's gone to shops to buy it, thinking that it was legal, and it has been contaminated. If that is the case, then I think the lesson people need to learn is that when you take a supplement, you are taking a risk. There's a study that was done in this country showing that roughly 1 in 10 supplements are contaminated with something that could get you banned. So you've got a 10% chance of ending up in a situation like Mamabolo. Now that's high, considering that there's not really that much evidence that supplements work. So our advice always to elite athletes, if there's a chance you'll be tested, is rather don't take a supplement. Deal with diet, deal with training, do all the other things first. And then if you still feel that you need a supplement, then you must work with SA Institute for Drug-Free Sports, a dietitian who's involved in sport, and you must look because there are some supplements that are much more likely to be guaranteed to not get you banned, and you just have to be extremely safe. This is a failure of partly luck on Mamabolo's part, but it's also management because you can take steps to minimize the risk, and that's the lesson people need to learn.
Dr. Ross Tucker, as always, a pleasure on SAFM Sports Special. Let's just hope for the best. Let's hope that somehow, in my view, maybe I'm being biased, that it works out for Mamabolo and he was being ignorant. If not, well, then I suppose the law needs to take its course. Eh?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as I say, no one really knows what's happened, and he hasn't had the opportunity to present his case, and so we're all speculating a little bit. So I think important to let the things happen, let things unfold as they're meant to unfold, and then make a decision and at least learn from it and hope that it works out in the best way possible for everyone.
Never a truer word spoken on SAFM Sports Special. That's Dr. Ross Tucker, renowned sporting doctor, chatting to us about the Ludwick Mamabolo debacle.